We are recording. So, how would you describe your most recent article for the JLA to a public audience?
That is a good question. Um, I think broadly, I would say it's a piece that's showing how a lot of indigenous creatives in mainstream media who are, making current shows like Reservation Dogs and Rutherford Falls, how their participation is changing the larger discourse around indigeneity and people's understandings of what it means to be Native American or indigenous in the world.
Awesome. Um, and then you said this is part of a larger project. Do you mind telling us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so Monica and I have been working together now for a few years. We started collaborating during the pandemic, which was an interesting moment to start this work. But she's a corpus linguist who has been building these amazing corpora of mainstream media. Her focus had started out primarily looking at Australian Aboriginal Indigenous productions, so shows like Red Fern, if you've heard of that and looking at the kind of sociolinguistic production of indigeneity. And so one of our earlier pieces that appeared in Language and Society is looking at what's happening in those shows. And we start talking about some of the really creative ways that they are changing how people talk about indigeneity. Um, by playing with some ideas around what we're calling semiotic processes, which are basically just different ways we represent things. There's a body of work in linguistic anthropology that Judy Irvin and Sue Gall have really elaborated very nicely. And so we kind of draw on some of that work, like ideas about how, basically, like one of the key ideas in a lot of scholarship, indigenous scholarship, Native American studies, talks about the erasure of our presence in the settler colonial contexts, right? Rendering us invisible, except in these really stereotypic ways that you will see in like Westerns and other kind of mainstream media. And what we're seeing now with more participation by like Native American script writers and actors and directors is the interruption of those stereotypes, is playing with that, is like calling them out and then unerasing our presence. So it's a pretty, I think, it's a pretty amazing time to be getting to do this kind of research.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much. I